Welcome back to my channel, you guys. It's Maeve Reilly, and I'm so excited to share with you guys how I got started. Everyone wanted to know, like, how'd you get here? What do I need to do to get here? How did you get started? So I decided that today is the day we're gonna spell it all out for you. I grew up in New York. I definitely came from a family that was into fashion. My mom's sister was into fashion. My dad was a TV producer. My mom was a singer. I think like style and fashion was just sort of, you know, in my orbit as a young kid. For perspective, when I started, there was no social media. There was no Instagram. It was the very early days of MySpace, and reality TV was basically just beginning. So I was actually able to take classes at the Fashion Institute of Technology, FIT, all through high school. They offered this high school program, which was on Saturdays for like a month, I think, or 6 weeks, something like that. And it would be on like a specific subject. So I'd do a design class or a textiles class or a draping class. And of course, this obviously helped get me into the actual college when it came time to apply. There was really nowhere else I wanted to go. I took classes in high school as well. Somehow, some way, my high school offered, you know, fashion classes. So it was always in my orbit. It was always something I wanted to do. I just didn't know how I would end up. My dad was a TV producer, as I said, and I was going into my freshman year of college. I shared in a previous video that I got sober when I was a senior in high school, so it was a very dramatic year, and the only college I ended up applying to was FIT because it was close to home and I could focus on, you know, getting sober and staying in like a safe place with my family. And so I got into FIT on a nights and weekends only like admission. So it's like part-time college basically. I did that. I ended up getting a job in retail, and I fell into this internship that my dad sort of forced me into getting. So he was producing this television show on the Hallmark Channel. It was like 0% cool. It was 0% fashionable. It was like I'm not gonna say who the talent was, but it was no one cool. I had no idea what I was getting into. I had never heard of styling. This was pre-Rachel Zoe. This was not something talked about. This is not something like that we know it is today. And I walked in, and I'll never forget, I was like, first time on a TV set, like this is so cool. But also like the talent needed a pair of pants, and the stylist handed me her credit card and said, go to Bergdorf's and get me every single pair of beige pants you can find in a size 6 or something like that. So off I went, I got the pants, I rushed back, you know, they ended up working. There was a tailor on set, they made them fit perfectly. And that was sort of like the beginning of it, where I'm like, wait a minute, you mean to tell me that I can spend other people's money? I had like a crazy shopping addiction as a teenager. Loved to shop, loved clothes, loved the next, you know, cool thing. And so that's sort of how it began. So I worked on this show for 2 years for free. I didn't make $1. They covered my like train fare, like my subway fare. You know, went to school. I worked at Bloomingdale's on 59th Street full-time. So I went from like a part-time like holiday gig there to a full-time job. I went to school, and then I worked on this show. And this was sort of right before the economy crashed in 2008. And once it did crash and people were losing jobs, I did lose my job. I sort of saw it as like, okay, like what's the pivot? Like what's the motivator? I just hustled, you know? And it was like Googling on Craigslist styling jobs. Again, I was always just like desperate to do anything, and my best friend had just gotten in with this production designer, and he worked in the art department. And so he did a ton of music videos, and he was in with this director named Anthony Mandler, who is so talented and did every big music video back in the day. My friend's boss was like, well, I can hire Maeve for the art department if she's like down to, you know, get dirty. And I was like, fuck yeah, let's go. I was just willing to do anything to get on set. You know, I had this like idea, like if I'm on set, I can get near the stylist, or I can see who's doing the extras or whatever, and just say like, hey, I actually do wardrobe. I'm just here busting my ass trying to get in the door. Like, here's my info, or here's my card, or whatever. That was really like my thought process. So I worked on that Run This Town video. I'll never forget it as long as I live. Shout out to Jay-Z. I'll never forget, after like a 36-hour shoot, this man walked up to every single person on set and thanked everybody. Like, looked them in the eye, thanked the Crafty Guy, I mean, everybody. It didn't matter who you were. And I remember thinking, like, that's the way to be in this world. You know, like, that's the way to be in this industry. Like, doesn't matter who anybody is, he was kind to everybody. And all these years later, every time I see him, he remembers me. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if he really remembers me from then, but like, it's like thoughtful, you know? So basically I'm sifting through Google and I figure out, you know, who is Rihanna Stylist. After being on that music video, I was just like so inspired by them. I was so inspired by the looks. I saw them kind of from a distance, but I couldn't get close enough. And obviously like artists have security, so you can't really like knock on the trailer door and be like, hey, can I talk to the stylist, please? So one day, I'm upset. I'm like, who is Rihanna's stylist? And it comes up Robin Marielle. I'm like, okay, who's Robin Marielle? So I go to their website and I'm going through their website and I come across an image of someone I knew. His name was Brooks. Shout out to Brooks. So I call him and I'm like, hey, do you know these people? And he's like, yeah, it's the homie, I know her. I'm like, you have to get me a meeting. Like, please, I'll do anything. And he did. He called her and he said, I have this friend. She wants to be your assistant. Do you guys need anyone? They just like, the universe aligned. They just happened to be in New York. They were working with Ree, they were working with Jay-Z, Kerry Washington at the time, and they needed someone in New York. They met me the next day at Fred's at Barney's, I'll never forget it. And they basically took me on, and like, that was sort of the beginning of my journey into like the celebrity styling world. Truthfully, I was in way over my head. I could not believe the amount of stuff that they would have for Rihanna for a fitting. It was also like heaven. It was when she was promoting the Rated R album. She had the short hair, she was edgy and cool, and that's like forever inside of me. Like leather, lace, and sequins and crystals is like my dream come true. I had never seen anything like it. They're so talented and so thorough, and it was just things I never like knew. You know, I learned a lot. I really learned a lot. Their assistant in LA taught me a lot. And so that same best friend that worked in the art department moved out to LA. We were at dinner one night and she's like, I'm gonna move to LA. And I was like, I'm coming with you. She's like, what are you talking about? I'm just like, I don't care, I gotta get out of here. So we come out to LA and I, you know, get in with as many people as I possibly could. But I just felt like the more people I know, you know, like the more networking I can do, the more doors it's gonna open. It was like this thing that my dad had always taught me, like just network, get to as many people as you can, and obviously be good at what you do. I was under 25, so I couldn't rent a car, but you really had to have a car. Obviously, it's like so much driving. I would figure out like the weirdest scenarios to get cars. I would, you know, I can't even explain to you. I would find these like random car lots that would rent underage kids cars. I ended up with the weirdest cars, but I didn't care. I was just like, whatever I gotta do. You know, my friends will remember like I would sit in my room and like be gluing crystals or like, you know, adding safety pins to things or whatever, like literal hands bleeding. Like I would do anything to get it done. I was still assisting, and the more I was on set, the more, you know, directors and producers were getting to know me. They would hire me to do extras and dancers. That's sort of how I kind of like got my big break. I started working with Colin Tilley, who's an amazing music video director, still is, doing everything for Justin right now. Like, but at the time, it was like all of Chris Brown, all of Young Money. I was doing all these rappers, all these boys, and I'm on set for literally 2 years straight, just doing like extras and dancers, you know, like overnight shoots, I mean, just everything and anything you could think of that was hard or challenging, or learning as you're going, like learning how to dress women quickly with different body types, with limited budget, not easy, you know? And it was just like, figure it out as you go. So I'm prepping for a job, I'm in a store, I meet this chick, she's like assisting / styling Jamie Foxx. She's like, your vibe is cool, do you want a job? And I'm like, yeah, what do you mean? I ended up getting in with Jamie's camp. I worked with them for a while. Most amazing time. He was like training for Django. It was like just such a cool moment in his like acting career. He's so talented, such an amazing person. And so I was doing all these guys, and I'm on set one day, and the video commissioner from Atlantic Records calls, and she's like, hey, want to do Janelle Monáe in 2 days? And I'm like, what are you talking about? she's like, yeah, Janelle, she's going to the BET Awards, and this was like Friday, that was Sunday. And she has a music video on Monday, do you wanna do it? I think you guys would be a good fit. And I'm like, yeah. I mean, I think in the beginning, like the biggest advice I could give anyone in the beginning is say yes to everything. You know, just say yes and you will figure it out as you go. Janelle at the time only wore black and white. She only wore suiting, and because I had men on my roster, she was sort of willing to give me a chance. She really, like, I really had no work on my, you know, website at the time that would even prove that I could handle what she had going on, but she gave me a shot. It was a great connection. Our very first fitting, we had never met. She was on vocal rest and couldn't talk. So I'm a big like energy person, and like I need to feel you and like vibe with you to gauge sort of how to be, you know, like how to show up. I think that's a huge part of why certain clients end up with certain stylists. It's like whether it's a good like energy flow or not. And here I am, like I can't read her because she can't talk. It was so crazy. It was an amazing fitting. We had so much stuff. She had never seen so much stuff, especially with like the tiny little turnaround that we had. And it was a great fit. And that relationship went on for 6 years, you know? And she really pushed me to be the absolute best stylist that I could ever be. She pushed me to like, she and her team pushed me like in a creative way that I never would have imagined, truthfully. You know, I think that's probably when Haley came in, Halsey, BB, Rexa, Lala, like all of that started to kind of come at the same time. And you know, Janelle, I always thought I would do men. Like I felt like there's not a lot of stylists doing this. It's a little less competitive. It's a little safer. And then Janelle came in and just, it all turned into girls. I still get to play with the guys, which I love. And it's like in my core, I'm also such a tomboy. So anyway, that's sort of like the timeline. Here is my advice. Ready? 1, be nice to everybody. You never know who you're going to come across again. Most likely you're gonna meet the same people as an intern to when you're me. I still see the same people that I saw in the very beginning of my career. So be nice always to everyone. Number 2, be responsible for the energy you bring to the room. When you walk in the room, it is your job to lift the vibes, make people happy, check your shit at the door. Don't come in with your bad attitude or your breakup or your whatever. You have to like, just tunnel vision, be positive, be loving. Think about how you'd want someone to make you feel. You know, if you're talent and you're sitting in the chair, they're dealing with a million of their own things. You do not want to add to that. So always just try to remember, bring the vibes up. Number 3, never give up no matter what. There have been millions of moments, maybe not millions, but like a lot, you know, a lot of moments where it's gotten very hard and I didn't think I could keep going. And I was just like, just gotta keep going. Sometimes you need a day in bed to cry, but regardless, don't give up. I think that really separates the people, like the ones who make it from the ones who don't. It's really just the people who didn't stop no matter what. Number 4, don't take anything personal. I'm still learning this lesson after 16 years. However, don't take anything personal. Just do the best version of the work that you came to do. You know, do the best you can. That's all you can do. And a lot of the times things don't work out, and that's okay. Don't take it personal. So just, you know, keep your head high, keep it moving, keep it loving, keep it kind, but don't take things personal. Number 5, and this is it. This is not just about putting pretty clothes on pretty people. This is a business. This is receipts, budgets, money, assistants, employees, insurance, workers' comp. It's so much more than just like, here's a dress, have a great time. This is not easy. So if you don't love this, you're not gonna love it. You know, if you don't love this with all of your being, you probably won't last, because it is a lot. It is taking time away from friends, family, birthday parties, funerals, Christmas sometimes, you know, like you're really like, this becomes a giant sacrifice and you have to love it. So love what you're doing, whatever that may be, and stick to your goals. Smack in the middle of the pandemic, I'm like, the one thing that I always get asked is exactly what this video is about. Like, how'd you get started? How do I become you? And I had this idea to start a class over Zoom. And so I had this idea, I sat with my team and I was like, why don't we create a styling series, which is what I've called it, and do it over Zoom, but produce it like beautifully, like lights, cameras, we'll record it, we'll figure out how we can like turn this into a business. And I sat down and I basically wrote all of this out, the 9-hour version of this, small video that you're watching right now. And we created this class and it did so well. And we actually have another one coming, so stay tuned. It's gonna be in person and on Zoom. So if you can't travel to LA, we're gonna also offer it on Zoom as well. But the exciting thing about this one is we're actually gonna be in the same room together so I can interact and really get to meet people. But I have to tell you, like, how many girls have run up to me in LA that were like, I took your class and it changed my life. And like, there is nothing that could possibly mean more to me than hearing that. I had this girl, it's funny, I was out to dinner with friends and I could tell that this table like knew who I was or they were talking about me or something. And this girl comes up to me, full circle Robin Marielle's story, and said, I took your class. She's like, I'm so sorry, I'm being weird, but I took your class. I moved here from Ohio. I chased my dream because of what you shared in that class. And now I'm Robin Marielle's assistant. And it's like, what the fuck? It's so cool. So stay tuned. We're going to be announcing more information really, really soon about the styling series, part 2, IRL in Los Angeles. I'm really excited about it, but we'll be announcing it like so soon. Okay, you guys, this has been so much fun. Thank you for coming back to my channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe and ring the notification bell. We will see you on the next one.